Thank you. Next question, Jeff, to you first. How do you retain officers with experience and make sure new officers are trained properly? So really two parts to this. How do you retain officers with experience and make sure new officers are trained properly?
I'll start with the second question first. To properly train new officers is where everything has to start. The field training process in Pine County has at best been lacking my entire career here. We need a structured approach. We need trained FTO officers that are able to take that deputy from whether it be another agency coming in or just out of school and train them to our expectations and the needs of the community before we put them out there on the road by themselves. That needs to be a very structured process, and it needs to be something that is trackable, because everything they do the rest of their career is going to come back on how they were trained initially. Before we even get to the FTO process, we need to have good policy and procedures in place. Right now, I think we are lacking in procedure within the department, and that procedure is the guidelines for how officers deal with cases at every level. If we don't have procedures in place, we can't train the officers on what to do. We can't hold officers accountable for what they've done or haven't done. So it needs to get reset back to a good policy and procedure and build from there to the FTO process. And then from there, we can look at our retention. I think everyone understands the difference between a good employer and a bad employer. We can't necessarily compete with money. A lot of our officers are from the metro area, our younger ones that we've hired recently, and the draw there is to go back to where the money is. I get that, I understand that. Also, their families are down there. They don't really have a reason to stay here if money's the only option, or the only drawback. We need to make the Pine County Sheriff's Office a place that people want to come work for. We want officers to get invested in the community. We want them to know their neighbors. We want them to support each other and get involved in the different groups that are available out there. Pine County has a lot of outlets, if you will, for community outreach. I think it's hugely important that our officers are involved in as many of those as they can. That will encourage them to stay here. That will encourage them to raise their families here. That will encourage a stronger relationship.
Thank you. Jared, how do you retain officers with experience and make sure new officers are trained properly?
Well, it starts with the hiring process. We have to start vetting our candidates better. We need to know who we're hiring. An extensive background needs to be done. We need to sit down and talk to these candidates and ask them point blank, are you planning on sticking around? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Lately, we've had a merry-go-round of kids who've been coming up here out of the metro, and they get a year and a half training here, and they go to where the money is. We do not, or will never be able to compete with the Edina's wage scale. It's just not going to happen. What we can do is foster an environment here within the Sheriff's Department that they feel like they're part of a family, they feel like they're part of a successful department, which is going to make them want to stick around. That's what we can do to try to get some more officers to stay in the area. As far as training goes, FTO program is the most vital portion of any law enforcement agency. I helped establish and build our FTO program with the Mille Lacs Band. We have a 12-week FTO program. These kids who come in fresh out of school, or if you're a veteran officer we hire, you still go through our 12-week FTO program. We call it training time, seat time. You ride with 4 different officers, and you learn from 4 veteran officers how our system works, how our reports work, who the county attorney is, where you send your stuff, not just stuff out on the street. It's crucial. Pine County has been lacking that. My FTO program here in Pine County when I was hired was I rode for 4 hours with a lieutenant. That night, I worked a night shift by myself. That is unacceptable. We need to start an FTO program here. It's got to start somewhere. I am a trained FTO officer. I went through 40 hours of training to become an FTO officer. Right now, to the best of my knowledge, we don't even have an trained FTO officer on staff here at the Sheriff's Department. These are the things that we need to improve on. This is what leadership is. When you have a leader who's been going or doing this for X number of years, how do you know what your employees are doing at night when you haven't trained them properly? How do you hold them accountable when you haven't trained them properly? You can't. So FTO is something we truly need here in Pine County. I do have the experience. I have set up a program. I can put that in place in a short period of time. With that, that's all I have.
Thank you. You catch this one first. If elected as sheriff, what type of relationship would you establish with the county attorney's office to ensure a functional, efficient, working relationship? And I'll say that again. If elected as sheriff, what type of relationship would you establish with the county attorney's office to ensure a functional, efficient, working relationship?
I was glad to hear that question come up earlier with the candidates who are here for the county attorney. It is probably the most vital relationship you have as a sheriff. You rely on the county attorney not only to prosecute your cases, but to advise your officers if they're doing the right thing. Can we do this? Can we get a search warrant? It is very important that the county attorney and the sheriff share the same views of what the county needs. It's crucial. Right now, the current sheriff has a problem with the county attorney. The current sheriff has a problem with the county board. Unacceptable. As an elected official, you need to represent the people of this county. And having these fights and getting nothing done, I think we're all sick of that. We see enough of it in Washington. We don't need it right here in Pine County. You need to work together. Whether you agree, disagree, whatever it might be, you still have to have that relationship. The county attorney is vital to every facet of a sheriff's office. They are the people that are your backbone. They're the people that are going to advise you of what you're doing. So yes, that relationship is crucial to a good functioning sheriff's office. I worked with several different county attorneys. We actually covered 13 different counties for the Mille Lacs Band. So I work with several different county attorneys. I have a great relationship with all of them. I have a good relationship with the Pine County Attorney's Office. It's pretty simple. You get in there and you talk to them, ask them what they need for their cases, and you work with them. It's not rocket science. It's sitting down and having a conversation and talking to people. So very crucial. It needs to be repaired here in Pine, and it can be done. It's pretty simple. No matter who's elected, whether it's Reese or Steve, it's a matter of sitting down and talking and getting those things worked out.
Jeff, if elected as sheriff, what type of relationship would you establish with the county attorney's office to ensure a functional, efficient, working relationship?
Personally, I don't have to work to establish a working relationship with the county attorney's office. I have that right now. I go up there probably once a week to discuss cases with them. I call them and seek their advice regularly on search warrants and other cases. They have gotten to know me over the years, and they call me and ask me to do work because it will get done when they call me to ask me to do it. What I'm hearing from them is in regards to the rest of the officers and the sheriff's office in general is the lack of communication. I don't know where it started. I don't know who started it. I don't care. I know that I can move that relationship forward because it's already there. If we let things break down into name calling and finger pointing, it serves no purpose whatsoever. And unfortunately, that's where we're at. We need to have a trusted relationship between the sheriff's office and the county attorney's office. If they don't trust us, if we don't trust them, we fail. The county fails. That is not acceptable. I have that trusted relationship already in place. What I will bring to the rest of the department is the county attorney's office coming in and training us on what they expect. I have heard that from up there numerous times, that they want the opportunity to come talk to our deputies. They want to hold training sessions for our deputies so they know our deputies. It is sad that I hear from the county attorney's office that they don't know who our deputies are. They've never seen some of our deputies before. That's not a good, healthy relationship by any stretch. So getting the county attorney's office and the sheriff's office together on the same page when it comes to prosecution is huge. Getting them on the same page when it comes to training and being open for them to come train us to their expectations is huge. Being available and open to feedback that's at times critical, but so essential, is huge. Whether it's us giving them criticism in a positive working relationship, or them giving that back to us. If we failed at a case, or we need to do something more to make a case better, we need to be open to that feedback. I encourage that feedback, and I will continue to encourage that relationship with the county attorney's office.
Thank you. And this question to you first, Jeff. How could you improve the response to sexual violence? How could you improve the response to sexual violence?
No matter what the case is, it comes down to the sheriff's office doing a full, thorough investigation. Sexual violence is one of the hardest cases to investigate. Obviously, the victims do not want to provide detailed information oftentimes. Sometimes they cannot provide detailed information. It's our job as investigators, as first responding deputies, to know how to get the best information to come out on a case. If we don't have properly trained deputies that go there and take the initial call, the ball gets dropped before it even gets handed off. We can't have that. We have to have properly trained deputies able to respond, to collect information, to get statements, to get evidence, to be able to process the scene, and ultimately be able to support that victim. That victim has just started a long process through the court system, a horrible process. We need to be there to support that victim from the time we get the call. Our deputies need to be sensitive to the type of call they're taking. They need to be supportive for that victim, make sure that they get the medical care that they need, and make sure that we pass that victim off to a support system that's going to support them. I've worked with Window and our crime victims people on numerous cases. I've seen the support that they can give. I've firsthand witnessed the support that they can give. That type of support and service is invaluable for making that victim whole again. We need to actively investigate the cases. We need to advocate for the victim at the county attorney's level. We need to make sure that that victim's needs are met, whether it be aggressive prosecution or support that they're going to need possibly for the rest of their lives to continue to recover from that. Sexual assault is one of the, like I said, worst cases there is to investigate. It's one of the worst experiences a person can go through. We need to be able to support that victim throughout the entire system. I've gotten calls from victims that I've helped through the system, and expressed that to me, how much they've appreciated me being there, whether on or off duty, to talk to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Jared, how can you improve the response to sexual violence?
Sexual violence is, again, one of the worst crimes you can ever be a victim of. How we can improve that here in Pine County is putting a system in place where our investigators, our deputies, everyone is trained in what's called the corner house system. It's a forensic way of doing interviews and taking care of victims. It's a set pattern, a actual procedure that many other departments use in Minnesota. We currently, I don't believe, use that here in Pine County. It ensures that we're doing everything right for our victims of this crime. It needs to happen here in Pine. Again, training. We need to get back to our investigators, our deputies, have the knowledge and the skills to be able to handle this kind of case. Sexual assault cases are complex, extremely complex. You have victims that recant, you have forensic evidence, it's a multi-problem case. You have to work very closely with the county attorney's office to ensure that you're doing what they need for a successful prosecution. I would, as sheriff, send at least one investigator to begin with to corner house training. Currently at my department, I have all 3 of my investigators have this training. When we have a sexual assault that comes up, we work with social services, along with our investigators, along with the county attorney, to ensure that we are prosecuting, getting the evidence we need for a successful prosecution. So sexual violence, it's a horrible, horrible problem in Pine County, and we can take a bite out of that, but we need to do that by having successful prosecutions, and that starts with good cases. So that's how I would help combat sexual violence in Pine County.
Thank